Hi, my name is Robert Chelle with Chelle Law, and my law firm assists dentists with employment contract and independent contractor agreement issues. Today, I'm going to talk about dental malpractice insurance tail coverage. So, if you are a dentist who owns a practice, or perhaps a dental associate who's joining a practice, the type of malpractice insurance you have is important. And that will kind of dictate whether tail insurance is necessary or not. So let's first go over kind of the two types of coverage. So for any dentist, there is either occurrence-based coverage or claims-made coverage. So if you have occurrence-based insurance, that simply means a policy has to be in effect when the malpractice occurs, and therefore no tail insurance is necessary. Occurrence-based insurance is generally about a third more expensive than claims-made. And most of the time, if you're a dental associate, you are not going to have control over what type of policy you have. If you are an independent contractor, most of the time they will leave that up to the dentist or dental associate of what type of policy you have. It's my opinion. Most of the time the math works out in the dentist's favor if they use an occurrence-based policy, meaning you'll have to pay less over time, but something to look into. So, occurrence-based policy, don't need tail. If you have a claims-made policy, someone will need to pay for tail insurance, and many times it would be the dentist. So let's go over what claims-made policy is. And so claims-made simply means a policy has to be in effect when the claim is made. So you could leave an employer, but somebody could sue you. In most states, the statute of limitations is 2 years. So you could leave an employer, your claims-made policy is ended, but you get sued 2 years later. You need a policy that covers the gap in between when you leave and then the last day somebody can sue you, and that's called tail insurance. So who pays for tail insurance will be listed in the employment agreement, or at least it should be. I'd say it's probably 50-50 if you're in a dental or a dentist-owned practice, whether the dental associate has to pay for tail or not. Most of the times, if you're in a corporate practice, they will pay for the tail insurance, but I mean, it does vary from place to place. But I would just say, overall, dentist-owned practices will make their employees pay for tail, whereas corporate-owned practices are less likely to do that. Now, how much does tail cost? It's generally twice what your annual premium is. So I believe, I don't recall the organization, but the last thing I read is like the average annual premium for dental associates somewhere around $3,600 a year. So if you did have to pay twice that, it'd be $7,200, and that's a one-time payment. So if you had to pay for tail and you were terminated from your job or decided to leave, it's a one-time payment. You don't have to pay it every year, but you will have to pay that before you leave the employer, and generally the employer will then want proof that you are covered for that period, so that because if you get sued, the employer is going to get sued as well, and so they want to be covered, obviously. This is something that can be negotiated in a contract, whether who pays for tail or not. There are a couple of strategies. One is if they're not willing to pay for all of it up front, you could, forgive it over time. So you could say, all right, after 1 year of employment, the employer will pay for 25% of the tail cost. After 2 years, 50%, 3 years, 75%, 4 years, the whole thing. That's one way one thing that we've had success with when negotiating with an employer. If they're not willing to pay all of it, any employee becomes more valuable over time, and so it incentivizes them to stay with the employer. And also fair for the employee as well, because if they put in 4 years of time with an employer, it's fair that the employer would have to pay for tail costs. Now, if the employer is refusing to pay for tail, then that's something you'll have to, decide if it's a deal breaker or not. But most of the time, shouldn't be that big of a deal for a dentist, simply because the cost is not like insanely prohibitive. In some specialties, like a OBGYN physician can have a $100,000 tail cost, and certainly that is a huge part of a contract negotiation, where if it's $7,000, it's just something completely different. So that's kind of dental malpractice insurance tail coverage. If you have any questions about employment agreement, malpractice insurance tail coverage, Feel free to contact my law firm at the phone number listed below in the description. You can reach us through our website listed below as well. And I appreciate you watching the video. Thanks.